I'm live. You push a button and you're live. It's just that simple. No one's here because when you first push the button, nobody knows you're doing a show. So, yeah, I'm live. Look at my dog. Yeah. Anyway, why am I here? Because it's Friday. My wife's taking an exam. I had some free time, so I figure I'd come, talk Jets a little bit. I'm prepping for a show on Monday I'm doing on Talking Jets with Ryan, filling in for Dom C, who's not going to be available for the prospect show. Going to be looking at some undrafted free agents or talking about some undrafted free agents. And I've started to look at the film. And I must say, it's always exciting to look at players and see if there's any potential for them. And I'll tell you what, in the early goings, I'm understanding, for the most part, I'm understanding why the undrafted free agents we have, and why we signed them, and why they didn't get drafted. Like, I'm seeing both sides of the story, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it, right? Because if I sat there and I said, this guy looks great, look how awesome this guy looks, look, he's amazing, the question is, well, why wasn't he drafted? So some guys just aren't consistent, or you see potential development. I looked at film and saw a tackle that I think probably has no chance, virtually no chance of being an NFL offensive tackle. I could be completely wrong. I mean, people will say, there are plenty of people that nobody believed in that showed everybody they didn't know what they were talking about. But I'm just being honest. I looked at the film and I said, okay, now we know why he wasn't drafted. But at the same time, there was things you could look for in his playing that showed potential to be a guard. So sometimes you bring in a guy, undrafted free agent, play tackle in college, but he's a big guy. He locks up well. He anchors well. And you look at plays where people lined up right over him, and you say, well, he held his own. So you think maybe that's why they did it. So I have a suspicion about that. We have one undrafted free agent. I'm not going to go too into it because we'll do it on Monday, but who is a guard. And with that one, I don't even know why he wasn't drafted. I'm trying to figure it out because it looks pretty solid. Not like a first two rounder or anything. I'm just thinking, though, that this is a player who may have been draftable at guard, but it was a very deep draft, and maybe he got overlooked. I don't know, but check it out Monday because I'll show his film and everybody can give their opinion. I never went to scout school, so I only got the eyes of a football fan. I could see the obvious. I could see, I could look and know, oh, look, they got the inside on the block. They're in control. They're controlling the defender. I could see when people get pushed around or when they push somebody around. I could see when somebody's missing blocks, missing assignments, when they are not finishing guys. And I'm looking at some of these players and and I'm able to see some things. So there'll be about four players, I would say, in total that so far that I've looked at film for that we'll talk about on Monday. So don't miss it. I believe it's 7 p.m. on Monday, I believe. So check that out. Anyway, I see Jets Mess is here. He called me snacks. I don't know, like, if you could call it snacks. Like, would you consider, like, I dropped my wife off, right? And I realized she's taking this exam, law and ethics exam. She's like a therapist, so she's trying to get her full license. You have to pass these exams. And I drop her off and I drive. Now, this counts as, because it's not a meal, it's the middle of the day. It's 3 o'clock, right? It's 3 o'clock here. It's 4 o'clock here, but at the time it was 3 o'clock. Instead of driving straight home, I drive to McDonald's. Now, it's not dinner, it's not lunch. Like, right? So technically you could say it's a snack. But what I got was I ordered a Big Mac, and because I had a free one coming to me with the McDonald's app. So I used my points and got a free Big Mac, got myself a soda, and I said, well, I'm not in the mood for fries, but but I always want more burger after a Big Mac. So I got a McDouble. So I ate a Big Mac, a McDouble, and I still have my Coke sitting over there on the table. So the question is that a snack or is that a meal? I mean, because I'm still going to have dinner tonight, right? And I ate lunch. Like I had breakfast. I already ate eggs for breakfast with bread, with like fresh bread. I did that whole thing. I already had a couple of those frozen Costco Sbarro pizza things. You know, the mini pies that you heat up in an air fryer into 8 minutes. I already zapped a couple of those, one cheese, one pepperoni. And now here I am eating a Big Mac and a McDouble. And I'm asking you, does that count as a snack? Or is that like, I don't know, second lunch? I don't know. I'm like a hobbit. You're saying that's brunch, but it's 3 o'clock. And I already ate 2 meals. So I don't know, brunch. Isn't there a word for dinner and lunch? Like linner or dunch? Dupper? Lupper? I don't know. What's going on? I see Wild Wave is here. I see Yeti is here. There's a way to thumb us up on these. I think there's a way to like these videos. I don't know. Hit the like button, man. If there's no like button, then I guess don't hit the like button. But if you see a like button and you want to hit it, go ahead and hit it. That's great. But I got 3 likes, so 4 likes now, so it's working. Some people are finding the like button. Appreciate that, guys. Some guy is here. He's saying a better question is, can your toilet handle it? Yeah. I mean, we had to buy a new toilet, but like let's say the life expectancy before it starts to go bad on a toilet is 6 years. I'm sure in 3 years I'll be having issues. But we did get a new toilet, like brand new. For the first month, it was great. You hit the button, blah, 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 it fills back up. It's already laboring. The parts are wearing down. It's already saying, enough, dude, enough. But no, it's holding up though so far. It's holding up. Anyway, look. So I looked at some of the undrafted free agents. Sean McAteer, what's going on, brother? It's good to see you. But I'm really here to talk about. I see a lot of things going on. A lot of craziness about Malachi Corley. Like there are people out there that are hammering this pick, and it's absolutely nuts. And they're never the people that watch film, or it's literally people who just listen to what other people say. Like there are people being brainwashed into like complete nonsense. So let's talk about Malachi Corley, okay? Malachi Corley. Okay, just because somebody is called the Yak King, just because they used to be a running back, doesn't mean, oh my God, we got a guy who can only do screen passes and can't catch routes. That's not what anybody said. He changed positions. He's a wide receiver. To give you an idea that he's not the only person with this build, when people do player comps, I'm not going to be one of these lunatics that say, he's going to be Deebo Samuel. But to give you an idea, he weighs the same as Deebo Samuel within a pound or whatever, or two, and he's within a half an inch. He's like pretty much the same height. So he's a very similar body type than Deebo Samuel. I do agree with people when people say it's weird because he doesn't look as big as Deebo does. Like he doesn't look the same. But the reality is he's the same height and weight. Now, is he going to be Deebo? I'm not going to say that. That's crazy. It's like Deebo's like a, once in a generational weird kind of talent. Although I will say, is Deebo really? He's hurt a lot, and I don't know. Is he a lasting talent? Because he never seems to be available. But what I like, I'm gonna talk about Malachi Corley as an individual. As an individual, he is hard hitting. He invites contact. He runs power running. When he gets that ball, he's an animal. He will run right through you. He's like an aggressive tight end. Okay, so he has a real good killer instinct. The negative to that is you don't want him to get hurt. But let me tell you something. You won't see him go out of bounds if there's another yard to be had. That's not this guy's game. So, and Salah said it, and you could see it in this game. You could see this guy, he's dead in the water after, an 8-yard gain. And instead of just stepping out of bounds, he barrels into guys for an extra yard. Okay? But here's the thing. His route running is not great, right? It's not a strength of his because he is a guy who converted. Also, he played for a team that with a really piece of like a really sucky quarterback, okay? So He wasn't asked to run routes. They just wanted to get him the ball. And that's what they did. They did screen passes, flat passes, short passes to get him the ball. But there's plenty of routes, shorter, regular routes that are on the route tree that he runs. And while it's not going to blow your mind, your eyes aren't going to come out of your head. He's not doing them poorly. He actually has some plays where he really dukes some people and he looks really good running his route. But he's not doing it poorly. He's not running his route poorly. It's not like it's a big problem. The concern is because they had no quarterback, really, they did not have a good quarterback. And you can watch the film and see, even in his short passes, he had to make amazing catches or weird catches because the quarterback was still inaccurate. But aside from that, all we know about him is that he has to be developed, that they have to give him the opportunity. He might come in first day, first in camp, and be running intermediate to longer routes and be fine. He might be it might not be a strength, but he might be fine. Or it might be really bad, and they might have to do a lot of work with him. It might be that his first year on the team, and this is okay because we have Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson, his first year on the team he might not be the guy we rely on third down. He might not be. We might have to just stick with Wilson or Williams or Conklin or Brees Hall. He might not be trustworthy yet of being that 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 guy. Not because he'll drop the ball. He has great hands. Because if you don't run a route precisely, you could find yourself on 3rd and 4 catching a 3-yard pass, getting tackled, and it's 4th and 1. Okay, so you need to have a guy, plus, or you could just have the quarterback look bad because you didn't run the route precisely enough. So you need, on 3rd down, you want to trust receivers. If you're going to call 3rd down plays, the guy you throw to has got to be very trustworthy. You've got to be able to trust that they run the route precisely, where they are where they're supposed to be, and that most importantly, that they get the first down. We don't know that he can't do that yet, but if he can't, it's not the end of the world. Year 1, he might be, as he's developing, he might be a guy we design plays for. He might be a guy that runs shorter routes. That's almost guaranteed, but he might be a lot of screen passes, reverses. He might be a gadget guy in the beginning. He might be the guy that gets a bunch of gadget plays. He might get screen passes. He might get very short types of routes up the middle. He might be the check down guy because he's a guy who could, like, 2nd and 8. We pass, play action. The guy's not open. Check down to Corley. And guess what? He's the kind of guy, dodges a tackle, gets an extra 5 yards out of it. Yay. Okay? So he might be that kind of weapon for us. And then as his career goes on, he starts to open it up more, become more reliable. Or by the time the season starts, they might be raving about him and saying, wow, this kid catches on so quick. He's doing a great job. And they might trust him right off the bat and say, this guy could run the routes. We could trust him as a 3rd and 4 guy, 3rd and 5 guy. We don't need him to be everything right now. And I think that's why a lot of us agree we should still sign another outside receiver, unless you really trust Lazard. Because I wouldn't want to put Malachi Corley in a position where he has to play WR2 boundary wide receiver right now. Because right now we can't rely on that because we don't have enough evidence that he could do that. It doesn't mean he'll never be able to do it. It just means we don't know yet because they've just started rookie camp and we just don't know. The only thing we know is they already seem to love him. They already seem to be really excited from anything that's happened so nothing bad has happened yet. So that's good. Best Jets since Corbett, Darrell Rivas, Curtis Martin, Kevin Mawai. Well, I wouldn't say Malachi Corley is. I didn't say that. Not saying that at all. So if that's what you're alluding to, I'm not sitting here trying to say you guys are just talking about best Jets. Okay, because I'm not claiming that's what Malachi Corley is. I think I think any young guy's ceiling could be really high. Because if his game translates from college to the NFL, which happens, right? Some players, their game translates completely. Sometimes it doesn't translate at all. and sometimes it's somewhere in the middle. So his ceiling, if his game was to translate completely, which is rare, but it happens, right? Sauce Gardner, right? It happens. Sometimes you get a player, Brees Hall, whose game translates. If we were to be lucky enough for Curley's game to translate, he's going to be a nasty weapon. Very difficult for teams to deal with. I think we could all agree on that because he's going to be the yak king and he's going to he's going to get us crazy first downs, crazy big plays out of nothing. Look, I'm hoping he just is able to develop. So, and be an all-around receiver. I'd like for him to be capable of playing everything, not just the slot, and not just be a gadget guy. To me, I'd be very disappointed if the best Malachi could do is be a gadget guy. Because not because he was drafted so high, because he wasn't. He was picked 65, but we did trade up from 72, so we did give some capital, and we did use our second pick that we had on him, while guys like Franklin, Roman Wilson, there were guys on the board still. So there is an expectation or a pressure for this kid to succeed and work out because there were other guys there were other moves we could have made that was a very valuable asset that we gave up for him. I want to thank our Biv for the super chat. He says, but Gibson can do all of what you said, and he is faster and proven. Well, I wouldn't say he's proven. Xavier actually, aside from that first punt return, Xavier wasn't that good. He's fast and he's dynamic, and I like him, and I think he has potential to develop, but he wasn't that good. Like, he dropped passes. He was a problem. And there are things you don't see on film that came out later. He missed his routes a little bit. Like, he wasn't a perfect player. I think he's a very good developmental pick. Now, I'm not saying that Malachi Corley is just that. I'm saying his basement, his floor, right now coming in, we know he could do that. We know he's a guy that's vicious with the ball. He's a much different player than Gibson. Xavier Gibson is going to run away from people. If we do a quick 5-yard slant to him, or if we do a screen pass to Xavier Gibson, the play has to be designed for him to have space. If he doesn't have space, he's being tackled. Curly's a different kind of player. He's a more of a punch you in the face. So you could design different kind of plays where it's kind of like there's probably going to be a player there, but if you beat him, you're gone for a touchdown. You're gone, or you're a 20-yard gain. If you could beat the one guy, right? And you could call plays like that are a little bit more sure-handed because most people want let's get him in space, as much room as possible. That's Xavier Gibson. Because the assumption with Xavier Gibson is when he catches the ball, point of contact, first contact, he's going down, right? So what do you want to do with him? You want to put him in space where there isn't that contact, where he can break free. With Corley, you could hide, you could disguise, and you could call the same kind of play, right? And at the cost of he's not going to have that open space, but it's a high percentage play because you're hiding it more. But then you could get the yardage anyway because he could physically go through them. Now, the thing is we don't know that Malachi Corley can't go out for a 15-yard slant. We don't know that he can't go for a post. We don't know that he can't come up the middle for 15 yards. The small amount of tape we have on him actually looks really good. Joe Blewett, if you want to go over to X Factor not now, but if you want to go over and look at his videos and some of the things he's put on Twitter, which I appreciate because he's pulled out things that I didn't find because I don't have access to every game. He found things where Malachi Corley is catching 15-yard passes in traffic, contested catches. I'll tell you one thing about him. His hands are freaking stickers, man. They're glue. He has great hands. He had a bad quarterback. There's the body control on him, like the way he can contort his body. He's able to be in midair and catch a ball that's thrown badly behind him. Like he's able to torque his body in midair. His athleticism is outrageous. His nose for the ball. He's a great hands catcher. He doesn't need his body. He just needs to get his hands on the ball. He has a lot of those attributes that you could really like, especially for a guy who's moved to wide receiver. But I wouldn't say because a guy could be used as a gadget guy or because a guy could be used in screen passes that every one of those kind of guys is the same. Xavier, Gibson, and Corley are different types of players. They're gonna make their money different ways. Xavier is gonna do it by being put in situations where he has space. He gets the ball in space. He takes the back end out of a defense, space, but like just by being a burner, or just even pulling the safeties back for a decoy, right? But a guy who could be a burner, a guy who could do that. Corley's going to beat the shit out of you on the on the inner part of the field, right? In the middle of the field, 15 yards, 8 yards, wherever it is. That's where he's going to cause the problems. That's where you're trying to get him the ball. Because if you get him the ball there, you don't have to do it in a trick play or where he's coming across the field where it's the, you know, where it could work. With him, it's a more sure thing. With Xavier, it's a risk. You throw it to him, quick slants. He's either going to get 2 yards or it's going to work. The defender isn't there. Whatever decoy, however we design the play, works against their defense. He's gone. Great. Corley, even if they have the correct defense, if you get him the ball and he catches that 5 yard ball coming off the line of scrimmage, he can actually break tackles and turn that into a first down. Different kind of guy. Different kind of guy. But I understand why it sounds similar because I'm sitting there saying, oh, you could use him as a gadget guy. I'm just saying that's the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is we have to design plays to get him the ball, and that's the only way he could be used. I hate those kind of guys. I'm going to say it flat out. When you have to design plays to get somebody the ball, those players, in my opinion, rarely work out. That's always like the worst thing I ever hear. Well, they need to design plays to get him the ball. He's got a great talent, but he hasn't had a lot of success. They need to design plays to get him. I never like that. Right? So that would be the worst case scenario for him. We need him to develop into a player who, in just normal routes, short routes, whatever it is, just normal slot receiver routes, is able to get open, get separation, and get the ball. But you know what? He's not as small as some slot receivers. He is around 6 feet tall, right? I think he's a 5'11 and a half. He has good jumps. He does good with contested catches. So he is a guy that doesn't have to be, college open to throw him the ball. Like Aaron Rodgers is accurate. He can throw the ball into the right place. This guy has the concentration and the focus to make the catch. Now, this is all assuming that it's translatable, right? Sometimes go to the NFL. Sometimes guys go to the NFL and they're not the same. And I acknowledge that. There's nothing we could do about that. There's nothing we could do about that. There are certain players no one will ever understand why the game doesn't translate. And there are scouts that'll tell you they'll never understand it. Maybe it's mental, who knows? But there are guys that just don't translate. Thanks for the super chat. Sean Backetier says Corley will be Aaron Rodgers' new Cobb. Well, I would take that because Cobb, people forget when we think of Cobb, they think of the Cobb for the last few years, the old guy, right? We don't think about the Cobb that used to freaking own the NFL. So there was some great years in there for Cobb. I would love it if he became Cobb. I don't remember Cobb's game enough to say that Corley is like him, but I'll take the production. I'll take the stats. Corley will learn from a vet like Mike Wilson and a young stud. Garrett Wilson could show him the way as a rook. And yeah, they'll definitely help him out. Look, there's always going to be veterans that help out players. There's no question. So I think the person that'll help him the most is Aaron Rodgers, though, to be honest. I think if you look, Garrett Wilson was getting a lot of help from Aaron Rodgers. I think that before he got hurt, I think that we were on the way. Like, I think that Garrett Wilson was going to be a star anyway. I think a guy like Aaron Rodgers makes people better. We saw that with Lazard, right? You saw what Lazard is without Aaron Rodgers. You saw 2 years ago, 3 years ago, what Lazard is with Aaron Rodgers. So I think it's the same thing. I think Garrett Wilson will develop into a much better player because of Aaron Rodgers, just like Devontae Adams did. So I think all the receivers will benefit. I think having a guy like Mike Williams there, of course, is good. Of course it's good. But don't forget, we have coaches. The Jets wide receiver coach is a very energetic, high energy, passionate, very experienced guy. And we have another backup quarterback. We have a backup quarterback that's also a veteran in this game. But from what I saw on Hard Knocks last year in One Jets Drive, Aaron Rodgers is a hell of a wide receiver coach. Hell of a guy to give feedback to the receivers because they respect them and they're going to listen to him. Why two running backs instead of two wide receivers, Aiden Mitchell and Corley? I would have loved for them to get to A. Mitchell. Like I can't argue that, Jay. I really can't argue that. Like it's a great point. I am not going to dispute and say and defend taking the two running backs against that argument. I would have definitely I would have doubled up on wide receiver. I did it on tons of my mock draft. I felt that, especially after taking Corley, I would have tried to trade up. I would have tried to make sure. I don't know if he was there when we picked again. I would have won after Franklin. He's a burner. He's a guy that definitely could play on the outside. I would have pursued him. I forget else who was available because I think Roman Wilson went pretty soon after we picked. Malachi, what was the other one? Xavier, or was it Malachi Wilson Williams? Which is the guy that we wanted? There was a guy we all loved, a speedster from Virginia. Sorry, sneezing, sneezy. There was a guy we all loved that Green Bean loved from Virginia, who ended up going to. Jeez, where'd he go? I think he went to a team that was really upsetting to us. Was it Buffalo or Miami? I'm not sure, but anyway, I'm sure you guys are already saying it in the chat. Yeah, it is Malik Washington. There you go. Thanks, man. I would have seen. I think his name is Dan Aykroyd. Shut up, Dan. Look, I think that there's a really good argument for picking two. I don't think it was horrendous. It was a surprise. I don't think it was horrendous to take two running backs because they were both good players. So like I could live with it because of that. But that's just me personally because I like those. I like both those running backs. Both those running backs. I mean, I love Braden Allen. He was my guy. He was my number one guy. I mean, there were guys I knew that were higher rated, but they were too early in the draft anyway. But for where we were picking, my number one realistic running back was Braden Allen. Like I got the exact guy I wanted. Now I gotta say, in my mock drafts, and I go back and show pictures of them because I take pictures of all my mock drafts. Most of them, especially later on in the last month, like not so much in February, but in the past 6 weeks before the draft, when Braden Allen was off the board, Isaiah Davis was my next guy. So I'm kind of blown away that they like both guys that I liked because I didn't expect that. But I think what they're trying to do is change the team. I think that they want Aaron Rodgers to not drop back and throw like he did early in his career. I think they want mostly play action. I think they want efficiency. They want the surprise element, not where he's just like they're just blitzing all the time and thinking, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers. They're going to throw. I think we're going to be a punch you in the mouth, smack you in the face, punch you in the face, whatever you want to say, running, pound the ball team. I think that we can only give Breece Hall the ball 20 to 25 times. So you need another guy, and they got a guy like Isaiah Davis to be the punch you in the face guy, to be that power guy, maybe even like the fullback. And I think Braden Allen is really the backup. To me, I mean, I don't know what they're thinking, but to me, Braden Allen is the all-around. Because yes, he's powerful, but he's also a home run hitter. He explodes. He accelerates so fast into space. So I see him as if knock on wood, God forbid, Breece Hall goes down for a game or two. I think Braden Allen is your RB1. I think he's your cow. You could literally go 2025 plays with him. I think he's got a good combination of power, a good combination of speed. But I think when you want to wear down the defense, I think you're going to see a lot of Isaiah Davis. I think when you're talking about we have a 50, 70, when we actually, and I believe it could happen this year, when we have a lead in the middle of the third quarter, I think that you might see Davis come into the game and be that guy that wears down the defense at the end and just pound, 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 first down, eat up the clock. I think you might see him get a lot of opportunities to do that if his game translates and if he does well in the NFL. So I think that they wanting to be a punch you in the face kind of team. I think Izzy might be the guy. I think he's going to make the team, but I think he would have been the guy this year that wouldn't have been drafted. You know what I mean? Like I think that we kind of changed the philosophy a little bit since drafting Izzy. I don't think that means we want him to go because it's still good to have a freaking change of pace home run hitter. And that's what I think he at his ceiling could be. A guy that comes into the game and especially again later in the game or late into a drive. You've walked down the field 40, 50 yards. The defense is starting to put their hands on their hips. You throw this guy in and suddenly you do a quick pitch to him and he's just gone. So I could see that role for him. So I think we could go with four running backs and really make good use of it. But if it was me, it would have been wide receiver. It really would have. I would have just lived with three running backs, picked up a veteran if I needed someone else, and I would have went with another wide receiver. So that's just me, though. What is this lead in the game you speak of? Boomer, Boomer Town. I know, but it's really hard on paper when you look at this team on paper. It's really hard not to imagine there are going to be games. Not every game, but it's really hard to imagine that there are going to be games. There are not going to be games where we have a lead. Like I totally believe that there are going to be games where we have the lead because we have a great defense, and I just don't think that you think Aaron Rodgers will just suck every week. I mean, there are going to be weeks with these weapons where we're going to go off. It's going to click. We're going to have Brees Hall with a big run. We're going to have a big receptions to Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson doing his thing. We're going to score some points, and our defense is really good. There are going to be days where we're winning. I really believe it. And our guys are going to be able to pin their ears back and go after the quarterback. And on offense, we're going to grind it. We're going to grind it. And we didn't have that in the past. Like now we have a guy that specifically could come in and just grind and take the hits. And that's Isaiah Davis. Just take the hits. You know, when you got a lesser lead, that's when it's more Braden Allen. Because now you got a guy that's a little bit more powerful. Because he's kind of a combo. You could save the body of Brees Hall, right? Save because there's only so many hits you want a running back to take. Wear and tear. We're up. We have a lead. Maybe it's not a gigantic lead. Maybe it's 13 points. So you still want to try to score. That's Braden Allen. Now the game is out of reach. You're in the fourth quarter, 10 minutes to go. You're up by 20 points or whatever it is. You're definitely going to see Isaiah Davis. He's the guy perfect for that. Run out the clock. Bring in Isaiah Davis. But if there's any question and we still believe we need to score points, I think you could just go with Braden Allen and smack them in the mouth with Braden Allen. Or Brees Hall, if he hasn't had a lot of carries, he's only at 14, 15 carries. Maybe he says, "Coach, what are you doing? I want my carries," and that's fine. But it's great to have options. You see how many options we'd have in those situations? We have guys who can do different things for us. I'm all about preservation. I love stats, and I want Brees Hall to be able to pad his stats, but I also want to I won't want him worn down. He's already had an ACL tear. I just like as soon as we get control of a game, to me, once the game is ours and I know it's our game and we got the W, I no longer care about stats. Now I want no more injuries in this game. Once we know a game is over, no more injuries. And then number two, save their bodies. No unnecessary hits, no unnecessary wearing down. And as a bonus in number three, give the backups a chance to play. Give them a chance to get reps. Give them a chance to grow. Because one day we might need them. We might need them, and we'll be glad that they have experience, that they have some reps under their belt. Also, when the year ends, even if they never get to play other than those kind of games, at least we have a better idea of who they are. How did they handle coming into games? What were they like? Did they know the plays? Were they behind? Were they out of position? Did they execute well? It's good to get that information about your young players. So I really believe there are times when you put a game away that there's a lot you could take advantage of and a lot you could still do. I don't think we can stop the run. I don't know about that. I know that we struggled a little at the end, but we had a lot of injuries. We lost the other DTs. So I'm not going to say that we can't stop the run. It might not be our forte. Like it might not be, you know, our biggest strength, but I don't think it's like a weakness. Like we can't stop the run and we're one of the weaker teams in the league. I mean, that might be a category that we're not elite in for sure, but I don't know that it's one that's a problem. I think overall we're going to have a top three defense in the NFL. So that being said, it's only going to be that not being able to stop the run is only going to go so far. So, you know. Yeah, no, I think that Corley, I agree, Jay. So what you said. Corley also needs to learn how to run out of bounds with clock management. I'd hate to see him fight for that extra yard, not go out of bounds, and we lose a game because of the clock, right? So, but I agree. I agree. If it's not an important time of the game, we don't need him fighting and taking extra hits for that yard. I agree. But you know what? There are times, man, when the game's on the line and we're gonna love him so much for it. And it's gonna be the right time where you go all out. Where you need that score. You're going down the field. You need that first down. And you need him to fight for that yard. Our starters are legit starters. A lot will hardly play until preseason week 4. We'll see a lot of our rookies and UDFAs. Good times. Yeah, I think we could never hold a team down when we needed a stop. Look, Jay, I can't get on board with putting down the defense. We were a top 3 defense in the NFL. By some rankings, we were number 1. Like, you just have to understand there's no such thing as a defense that stops every offense every game. Like it's the NFL. Other teams are going to get first downs. Other teams are going to come through the clutch offensively. Other teams are going to score points. Having a great defense doesn't mean you shut guys out every week. It doesn't mean you always get your way. Our defense was worn down in a lot of games by the end of games because they were on the field way too much. So when you look at the numbers and look what our defense did, considering the offense we had and how often we were on the field, our defense is elite. They were outstanding. I just can't. It's just not a good take, dude. There's no debate about it. It's not an opinion. There's data. Okay? We're an elite defense. The stats, the numbers show it. We're an elite defense. It wasn't that we couldn't stop them because we're not good enough on defense. When you're on the field for 40 minutes of the game, when your offense is going 1, 2, 3 and out, 1, 2, 3 and out every single drive, and your defense is on the field the entire game, they're going to wear down. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. They're going to wear down. Because it's an offensive line's advantage the more they're on the field against the defensive line. Because they're the ones driving, especially in the run game. They're the one pushing. It's the guys trying to resist and get past them that are going to get more exhausted. So I just, and the linebackers are running around the field trying to catch up to the running backs. I mean, it's just, you have to move the ball. You have to possess the ball. You have to allow your defense to rest during the course of a game. And when you don't do that, your defense is going to break. And ours broke when those happen, but it was for very good reason. But I can't get on board with and say, oh, we didn't lose the Raider game because we weren't able to stop the Raiders. How many points did they score? We lost the Raider game because we had no quarterback. We lost the Raider game because we had the shittiest quarterback in the NFL, and we could not move the ball, and we could not score points. We also had the worst offensive line in the NFL because of injuries. So we had the shittiest offense in the world. So there was no way we could have expected to to be much better than that. So I mean, it is what it is. It just is what it is. But now that we have a real offense, if we stay healthy, if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy and our offensive line stays healthy, it's not going to be like that. They're not going to keep getting the ball. But I can't look at the defense and say a single critical word against the defense when we lose games to the Raiders because we couldn't score points or to New England because we couldn't score points. You can't look at the defense. They can't be perfect. Their expectation is not you have to shut out the other team. Their expectation is not you have to hold the other team from ever getting positive yardage the entire game, even though we're going to put you on the field every 5 minutes. Like, that just is not realistic. And you can watch any good defensive team. That's happened to them. Their defense is snapped. They've broken. They've been broken because of that. So I just can't, do that. Yeah, I think Salah's got a lot to learn. He's definitely so far hasn't proven to be the best in time management. But then again, you're supposed to have assistant coaches that help you with that. And we've had communication failures and breakdowns, which I'll hold Salah accountable for because he's the head coach. And to be fair, he's held himself accountable for that. I think it's not as bad as the first year or the second. I think each year he's gotten better, but now it's year 4, so it's got to be over. Like, no more excuses. I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to help with that, by the way, because Aaron Rodgers is like having a coach on the field. So I think we're going to be okay. Taco night, baby. It's Friday. How are you going to feast on taco night? That doesn't make any sense. It's Friday, though. Shit, if my wife started then, oh man, I'm going to have to go. I have to get the dogs in the car. I have to go pick her up. Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. You guys make time fly way too fast. I don't operate on a calendar. Well, Dano, the money you could have saved by eating tacos on Tuesday instead of Friday over the last 10 years could have been your money to go to the Jets game. All right? So maybe you should operate on a calendar. Huh? Huh? Like up. Thanks, Jay. Thanks. But look, let's hope that Rodgers compensates and makes up for some of Robert Saleh's shortcomings. But just give us the top 3 defense. Let Rodgers do his thing on offense. Just let it be what Rodgers and this horrible coach Hackett did for Green Bay for a few years. Just let it be that. Let them do their thing. Let them have the talent. Just leave them alone. Keep your hands out of it. You know what I mean? They don't have to be as great. He doesn't have to be an MVP quarterback. Just pound the ball, run the ball effectively. We built the team to do that now. Play action, one of the most accurate quarterbacks ever. Don't put as much on his shoulders. He's 40, 41 years old now. Just use the running game, control the line of scrimmage, make the plays you have to make in the passing game. Elite defense, great combination. We're fine. We win a lot of games. And that's it. How do you like when it's portrait? I don't know what that means. Never mind, I got it. Dano's got a million things going on. He's having 3 conversations at the same time. When you feign lightly and you go sophistication, Albuquerque, albultration, alstration, he's using all these fancy words and doing all this fancy stuff. Dano, you don't know this, but with all the other things, Dano's got like an elaborate train set somewhere in his place where he's building the trains by hands and building little engines. Okay? This guy doesn't stop. If Brees Hall was a milkshake flavor, what flavor would he be? Chocolate chip mint, baby. Chocolate chip mint. All the way. And 3 blow-up dolls. You have 3 blow-up dolls? Damn, I thought you had at least 5. Huh. But only 3. Oh, well, you broke the other 2. You wore them out. Bam. He's laughing. I love making him laugh. Dano's the little train that could. All right, everybody. I'm gonna go. I just wanted to hang out and talk. I got to get my wife. Hopefully, she passed this test. She's got one more to go. One day I'm gonna have to take those same tests, and then we'll both be fully licensed, and we'll make lots of money. Giggity giggity goo. That's a great way to end the show, Dano. Guys, like the video if you haven't already. Tell your friends to subscribe. Tell everybody I'm bald, and have a great night.